Hello, everybody, and welcome to Curdcast, the podcast for people who like to eat cheese. With me today is Julie Van Balzer. Julia, I forgot to introduce myself, and that's why there was the weird pause there. But let's say hi to you first.
It's written down here.
Yes. So Julie, and I'll introduce myself in a second. So Julie, thank you for coming and being here for our flower show, not flower.
My pleasure.
And I'm your host, Jen Mason. I'm the founder of Curdbox. For those of you who have stumbled into this podcast, first of all, you should notice that Julie has much better lighting than I do. But we are 6 hours apart. And today we're going to eat through our April 2023 box, which is themed Flower Power. And Curdbox is the cheese and pairing subscription box that we send out every month nationwide. It has 3 cheeses, 3 pairings, and they all pair together and tell a story. So that's what we're doing here. If you don't have your own Curdbox and you're not eating along, go to curdbox.com and get yourself a box for next month and join the fun. But we get to eat first because we get to eat this one. And I've been wanting to do a flower-themed box. I feel like I start every podcast with this. I wanted to do this. These are all ideas that I have. I have so many ideas for boxes. It's the best part of my job. The second best part of my job is picking what goes in those boxes after I pick the theme. And then my third best is, well, maybe my first best is getting to have a podcast with Julie and then picking out the theme and then picking out what goes in the theme.
Because I'll be frank, the first best part of my job is eating.
Okay.
Period.
All right.
The second best part is that we get to eat it together.
Very good. So what we're telling you is that this is a very honest podcast for any cheese lover. We won't lie to you. So we should get started, and we start with our cheeses. And I love this one. For those of you who don't know, I am dialing in from Sicily. And Julie is not in Sicily, which is why we're 6 hour difference. Why I have it's nighttime here, not for Julie yet. But I love this because this is in season here as well. So Purple Haze by Cypress Grove, and it's a goat's milk cheese. So it falls into our bright and fresh category. It's very young, and it has wild fennel pollen and lavender in it. And wild fennel is everywhere here. You can't go for a walk anywhere and not see the wild fennel. There's wild fennel, there's wild cardoon, which is an artichoke thistle. There's wild asparagus growing here. You could literally pull over on the side of a highway in Sicily and make yourself a salad.
So I took everything out of packaging. Is it this one?
It's the brightest, whitest, soft one.
Yeah. So yes. On a spoon.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Great.
So this is made by our friends in California, and it has the fennel pollen has to be collected by hand, but it feels so bright and fresh.
It was not at all what I was expecting.
What were you expecting?
Well, I've had a lot of goat cheese. I like goat cheese.
Yeah.
And it's I'm very used to it. This is I'm trying to think how to describe it. The fennel. Mm-hmm. It's such a wonderful, almost I don't even know how to describe the flavor. It just makes it deeper and more complicated. The texture of this is so creamy and wonderful. Sometimes I find goat cheese to be a little more on the crumbly end of things. And this is just pure cream. It makes me think a little bit of what happens when you whip ricotta and it gets to that kind of state. This is very much like that. And again, the fennel is that little extra taste that means that you're not just having goat cheese.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
I'm into it.
It's very good. And at room temperature and just stirred up a little bit, because of the fennel, it almost feels like a dip. I think it could definitely stand up to some carrot sticks and some red pepper slices, and you would be a very happy human. Yeah,
great
very
sandwich
good.
Spread, great substitute for cream cheese on a bagel. I would love to see it with a little bit of red pepper jelly. You could definitely eat it. Do you know what I mean? With fresh peaches sometimes it's really nice. Grilled peaches maybe. Just so good.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. And these guys at Cypress Grove really make beautiful cheeses. We've had their stuff in here before to remind people who have been here before or tell other people that in 1970, Mary Keenan, who sort of began raising alpine goats because she wanted a source of healthy milk for her children. By 1983, she was a single mom, had 4 daughters, and started making cheese. And the idea for the purple haze came about because she was just looking out her kitchen window one day and was trying to think of how to create a cheese with the fennel pollen that a friend had challenged her to try. And she just was like, I could do this, and saw the lavender outside too. And this like where the idea for this came from. You never know. A friend can challenge you. You look outside your window and poof, something delicious comes. I don't think I've ever made you a tasty cheese just because you challenged me, though. I'm sorry.
Ooh, I'd like to issue a challenge to you, though.
All right. Our next cheese is the Fiore Sardo. And this is the one that is not Barely Buzz. So Barely Buzz will have the dark rubbed rind, and the Sardo is the other one on your plate. Yes. So this falls into our smooth and melty category. It's a raw sheep's milk cheese, and it comes from Sardinia. And actually, the name Fiore Sardo means flower of Sardinia.
I'm surprised to hear it's smooth and melty, because for me, it's like very crumbly, almost like Parmesan kind of crumbly. Can you talk about smooth and melty as a category?
I sure can. And Parmesan cheese fits in the smooth and melty category. So this category is more about how the cheese is made. So these are cheeses that are both cooked and pressed, as opposed to like cheddars and goudas that are just pressed. So what's happening is all of our good fondue cheeses fall into this category. It's like what I like to tell people is like the cheese practiced melting by being cooked when it was being made. And so then it likes to melt again. So if you can think about Parmesan cheese, which is similar to this too, when you like grate it or mix it into something, it does get smooth and melty.
Right.
It might not be if it's been aged to the point of having a drier consistency. It's not smooth and melty at its sort of room temperature point, but it will smooth and melt nicely. It tends to not separate like other cheeses do, like a cheddar might do. So that's why it falls into that category. It's because those are the cheeses that have been both cooked as milk and pressed.
So it's like to differ it from like the friendly flexible category, which is those
just
things,
pressed cheese.
Right. And this is that makes sense to me, because I guess I sort of mix up in my head the friendly flexible and the smooth melty, because I'm like, oh, this is all flexible and soft. It must be a melty cheese, but not always true.
Exactly. Because it could be aged. We call the friendly and flexible, which has our Gouda and cheddars in it, not just because those cheeses tend to be a little maybe semi-firm, but because they're also flexible and that you can use them a lot of different ways, and they're friendly because a lot of people like them. So they're like an easy category to love. But you could have an aged cheddar, that is, or an aged Gouda that is, nuggety, crumbly, and really good too. But it's still.
It occurs to me that it's been a while since we've gone through the categories of cheese that you at the Curdbox and at Curds & Co. sort of like talk about. Do you want to just sort of go over those real quick?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So I'll do a short, dive, but we do have information on the Curdbox website about these as well. But we basically take all the cheeses and break them into 8 categories. Any cheese can fall into this categories. There are cheeses that are troublemakers that like to fall into more than one category. But ideally what's happened is that we don't like bucket them into French cheeses and American cheeses and Spanish cheeses, which
is unhelpful to me, because I don't know what the difference is between those.
Right, exactly. If you don't know the difference in a cheddar, an American cheddar could taste very similar to a territorial cheddar from the UK to a cheddar made anywhere, because it's the recipe that makes it that way. So anyways, we break them up into sort of how they're made. So we start with our milky and mild, which is basically whey cheese, which includes ricotta and anything. Other cultures make a ricotta like cheese, but it's It's a specific cheese that's made from, usually from the whey that's left over after you've already made the cheese. You can still pull out more protein. Then we have stretchy and chewy, which includes mozzarella and provolone, which are made very similarly, but mozzarella you eat fresh and provolone gets aged a little or a lot. We also have bright and fresh, which some people would put mozzarella in the bright and fresh. It's just made differently, so we separate it. Bright and fresh
Would
is like
this be bright and fresh?
exactly, yes. So that's your feta and your goat cheese, your like fresh chev, farmer's cheese, anything that you're making that isn't made like mozzarella and isn't made, which is that it gets cooked and the curd gets stretched. It's a stretchy, if you think about cheese sticks that you can pull off, those are mozzarella. They all come from that category, which in the professional world, we call it pasta filata, which is the name of the cheese. That doesn't mean anything to normal people, so we call it stretchy and chewy because that's where you're going to get your mozzarella cheeses from. Bright and fresh. And then we have bloomy and brainy, which includes your brie and your camembert, and also things that sort of look like them, but they look maybe more brainy. So they still have that soft looking rind that's bloomy, but it looks a little bit crinkly like a brain. That's made with special cultures that, and they're geotrichum. That's the technical name for them, but we like to just call them brainy cheeses. They're usually tangier than a brie. A brie could be more earthy or mushroomy, something like that. Let's see. And then we have our friendly and flexible, which is our cheeses that are pressed. They're usually a larger format. So those are our cheddars, Goudas, and things that are, the curds aren't cooked. The milk isn't cooked and made into cheese, but it is pressed. So unlike brie, where they just gently scoop it into the mold and let it sort of just drain itself out, a cheddar and a Gouda, they get pressed and into their mold shapes. And then if we've also cooked them, we move into what we were just talking about before, which is smooth and melty. This is where all your fondue cheeses and your raclette cheeses, they all fall into. They're pretty darn similar to the naked eye to the friendly and flexible. So those two categories are the easiest to serve. They go with all of our flavor profiles. They're just like, they go with the most drinks and beverages. They're just really easy ones to pick. So they're good friends. And then we have our creamy and funky, and this is where you'll get cheeses like Taleggio. So it starts out like a brie, but then it gets washed. It's a washed rind cheese, which doesn't mean much to people, but if I say it's creamy and a little funky, it means something to you. And so that rind, every once in a while, will get washed with either a brine, which is just like a salt water, or some kind of alcohol or beer, or they'll get washed with something which adds what we call bee linens to the outer rind. And that is what gives it its funk. So that's the next category. And then the last category is bold and blue. And that's got our blue cheeses, Gorgonzola, and Stilton, and all those good ones. If you're a blue cheese lover. And if you aren't a blue cheese lover, it's not a bad thing, but just find a blue cheese lover that you love so that whenever you have blue cheese, you can give it to them and they'll think you're being generous.
Well, the thing that I love about these categories as a cheese ignoramus is that I feel very confident that, like, if I know I like bloomy and brainy, then I don't have to get the same brie cheese every time. I can just say, like, what have we got that's bloomy and brainy? Do you know what I mean? And then have something a little different, but that's still going to be in my wheelhouse. It makes it really comfortable for me to like try new things, because even if I don't know what the cheese name is, if I get the category it's from, I'm like, oh, I understand what that is.
Yeah. And even though we've named them these categories, and when you get a Curdbox, you get a pairing card and it'll tell you what category it is. And it tells you what flavor profiles it pairs with. So it'll say if it's sour, you can add pickles. But even though there are names, if you went just as somebody who loves cheese to any cheese counter and said, I'm looking for smooth and melty cheese, they would think you're just describing that, which is how we pick these names, so that they would be universal, even though we, this is what we've named them. This is our naming convention, but we worked really hard to come up with names that any cheesemonger anywhere will understand what you're looking for and will be able to help you. So, but you're right. If you could use this, if you get Curdbox from us regularly, keep looking like, oh, I'm really liking smooth and melty cheeses. I'm really liking the bright and fresh. Then you can go to any cheesemonger and go, what is tasting? This is the trick. What is tasting really good in the whatever the category you like is? Because cheese is a living thing. It does. It's still living. It's got culture in it. And sometimes you'll get a new cheese in. Sometimes it's only available, especially with goat's milk or sheep's milk, that's only available a certain time of the year. And then the cheesemongers are all like, when it comes in, they're like, oh, let's taste one. And then they're like, oh my gosh, this is my favorite thing I've had. So, and then, next week they'll have a new favorite. But that's the secret to always getting really amazing cheeses, is to know what kind you like and then ask the cheesemonger, what is tasting really good right now? And you'll always get sort of the best cheese, the thing they're most excited about. So that's my little tip for today.
Awesome.
Okay. So we've had 2 of our cheeses. We're going down to Barely Buzzed, which has been in our box. I don't know. It's been at least a couple of years. This is Barely Buzzed by Beehive Cheese. And this one is 6 to 8 months. That one we just tried, the Fiore Sardo, was 8 months old. This one is cow's milk, and it's made in Utah. We've had their cheeses before. They use a base cheese and then they add something to the rind. And what I love, 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 love about Barely Buzzed, which is rubbed in coffee, espresso, and organic. Yes, look at that rind. Organic lavender. So this is one people ask, should I eat the rind? You have to eat the rind on this one because it's where like the really interesting stuff is. And if you close your eyes and eat this, I think a slice of this tastes like a wood-fired pizza crust.
Totally. I
Right?
can totally see that. And I have to say, generally, I hate things that have like lavender or rose because I feel like I'm eating soap.
Mm-hmm.
But I totally find this lavender to just add a little something fresh into it. It doesn't give me that soap taste that I don't want to have, or like
exactly. And
potpourri.
I was going to bring that up at the end, but you're bringing it up now, so I think that's great. Was that we were making a flower themed box here, but I did not want a box full of soap because I think the same thing. But we had lavender up in that first cheese with the fennel, and you can't taste it, and that it doesn't taste like your grandma's cologne got squirted in your mouth. It doesn't taste like soap. I think we'll find that we did a very close job making sure that we did not curate a box of soap.
Yay!
So far, so good. But I love these guys. I think, we're leaning a little more sweet with this box, but this cheese specifically, if you had a tomato jam, because I think it tastes like, well, it's a cheddar. And if you can taste the wood-fired pizza and then you have tomato jam with it, which we didn't put in this box this time, I think it tastes like a bite of pizza, which is like just, I love it so much. Whenever we taste this like that at our store, we run out of Barely Buzzed because it goes so quickly.
Good. And what I love too is that you can put pieces out so that one has a rind, right? And one doesn't. And then it's like people get the same cheese, but slightly different, which is really super fun.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. Okay, so we've tried our 3 cheeses. We've talked about all the cheese categories. Now it's time to talk pairings. And our first one is the shortbread bites. So here we're bringing in our flour with our wildflower honey shortbread bites. Look at that box. It's just so sweet.
Such a cute box.
I love it so much. So this this company was started by Willa Adam. She sort of did shortbread baking for special events and then just got talked into it seems like 90% of our people we featured in here got talked into starting a business. It received the Good Food Award in 2021. And they get their sort of distinct, so it's a shortbread, but with honey. So the honey adds that sort of wildflower, Tennessee wildflower, honey-ish flavor. Not bad, right?
Butter. It's so good.
Right? Oh my gosh. I am a big fan of this company. When Willa retired in 2006, it was taken over by her son and other partners, so it's still in the family. Beautiful. I mean, shortbread is like, what I want everybody to know is the secret to like a mind-blowing cheese board, because people don't expect cookies, and shortbread is butter, right? It's got so much butter. It already is a dairy cookie. It is filled with dairy. Dairy goes with dairy. Dairy begets dairy is what I'm trying to say.
Well, the texture on this is amazing. It's so crumbly and delicious. It feels so light. And the wildflower honey is such a nice surprise, because you sort of know what a shortbread cookie tastes like, but then it's got that honey flavor. Except wildflower honey to me always has a little something extra in it. Like it doesn't just taste sometimes honey just tastes like sugar to me.
Right.
But wildflower honey has that extra flavor. It's so good.
Yeah, and they're always, they move the bees around, and so they're all, because flowers are in season different times, so it's always just a little bit different, always changing. I think we think our food sources is so stable, and honey is made, but honey is made by little tiny workers,
right?
Who don't get any health insurance.
Actually,
or maybe they get, but they get taken care of. Maybe they get socialized medicine. Right, it's great. Oh goodness, I just lost your camera, Julie. Oh, and you're back.
Am I back?
You're back. You're off a second. There we go. Okay, you're back. Excellent. Those cookies were so good, they blew you away. Okay. So our next one, which you said has been a hit with the guys in your household, is our Fistful of Fleurs de Sel by Two Hot Cowgirls. I love the name, Two Hot Cowgirls. And this is, they start with their signature caramel corn, and then they add goutage, dark chocolate, topped with crushed toffee and dusted with Fleur de Sel, finest hand harvested sea salt. Wow, that was too hard to say.
So I haven't sampled it yet because I wanted to wait until the thing, but I let my son and my husband try it. And now I understand why they were trying to wrestle the bag away from me. Are really good.
It's really, I love salt and chocolate. People, sometimes people ask, are you a salt person or a sweet person? And I am a mixed person. I prefer both. I love that play on a sweet and a salty together. I like a spicy and a sweet together too. Maybe I just like sweet with anything. But I've learned some more about Fleur de Sel because here in Sicily, we actually have, they harvest sea salt. And I'm going to only briefly talk about this, but if you're ever in Sicily or ever in France where they do this, you should go see it. But they basically have these shallow beds of water, sections of water, and it's salt water from the sea, and the water evaporates, leaving the salt behind. But the first harvest is the most magical salt, and it's moister in a weird way because it's not sticking together, but it is very cool. It's very interesting to go to one of these places and do a tasting, and they just will sprinkle it on pineapple or other things, and you can get it in all different sizes, and it is different than what we just get in a box. It's different than the kosher salt. I love it for just putting on a dish sort of at the end, sort of if you've ever used Malden salt like that. You can get to the flakier kind, but this you can have in all the types. But the very first harvest, it's like the first pressing of olives, and the first gathering of the salt is really fascinating. But then it doesn't matter, because then once you mix it with chocolate and caramel and toffee, it's
I'm all in.
Okay, all in. It's really easy to love. These guys are based out of Colorado, and just make a beautiful product that is I'm sorry we can't give you each a 40-pound bag of this stuff because it's going to go fast. If you're listening to this before you open your box, you might want to sneak it out of your box and then go, darn,
Hide
we
it
didn't
from your
get the
family.
popcorn in our
Hide
box
it.
this time. But don't tell anybody that we did that if you actually took it, because somebody might call for more. All right. And then our big finish here is raspberry with wild bergamot jam. And this is from Blake Hill in Vermont.
So good.
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't know if I know what bergamot tastes like, to be completely frank. Like, I don't
Well,
think I can pick it out of a flavor profile, but this is delicious.
Well, that also grows here. When you come visit, I will feed you some. There's just on the side of the road. I was walking with my friend who feels like everybody in Sicily is also a botanist because they, she's like, oh, look, bergamot. And then just started eating it. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, let's just eat the bergamot as we walk down to the sea. But we've had their cheeses. We've had their jams in the box before. They make a ton of different flavors, which is why it's easy to showcase their stuff. They are a family-owned company that started in 2009. They have 60-acre property in Vermont. Started doing this just because they had all this fruit and they needed to do something with it. Wild bergamot has been used historically by several Native American tribes, and it was used to treat colds and sore throats and fever, as well as to flavor food. And I'm sure everybody has probably their first introduction to it is in a tea. You see it a lot in teas.
I was going to say, my mom just held up a container of Earl Grey tea because I'm here at her house. And so apparently that's bergamot. Who knew?
So they say it's also known by several other names, including bee balm, horse mint, oswego tea, and wild oregano, which is very interesting. So anyway, so that is all of our things. I'm excited to see if you what you think about pairing together, and I'll explain to other people while you're enjoying pairing.
Well, I know right away that I've got to throw some goat cheese onto the shortbread cookie. That's a no-brainer. So we're gonna see what a cute little appetizer to serve somebody.
Oh, this is so sweet. I love the little bites. So what we usually do at the end of our podcast is sort of try pairing them together. Our store, Curds & Co. and Curdbox, which is our e-commerce business, we specialize in cheese and things that pair with cheese. This is what blows our mind. This is what makes us happy to come to work every day, is to find really interesting pairings. So we're not just giving you dried apricots, Marcona almonds, one soft, one medium, one hard cheese. We bring the fennel cheese, we bring the cheese that tastes like pizza crust, and we bring cute little shortbread cookies. I mean, I would just pair the popcorn with the shortbread cookie.
Right. Well, I did the popcorn with the coffee rubbed one, and it is such a surprisingly it's the mix I didn't know I needed.
Right.
The salt of the cheese, the sweet of the popcorn, the textures work so well. I also paired the what was the second cheese?
The Fiori Sardo, Sardinian
the Fiori
flour.
Sardo with the jam. That was also really nice. The goat cheese and the shortbread was fantastic. I feel like, again, sometimes I feel like the boxes have certain pairings that work best, but this is definitely one where it's an orgy of flavor. Everybody can get along with everybody else.
Yeah, they all bring something to the table equally, kind of, in this box, and that's why we thought it was a flower show. It was just thinking about what I'll sort of end on this note, what you can do to make your own interesting collection of cheese. Yes, everybody's making cheese boards these days. A lot of people are more concerned about what they look like than what they taste like, and I can tell you because I've seen the pictures, and they're not necessarily putting tasty things on there, but they are all beautiful. But you can do both. I'm just telling you, you can do both. And we only had to pick out 6 things. We didn't need 20 things for this to happen. So find an interesting theme and go to the store. It could be just you really like bloomy and brainy cheeses, and you just go pick out 3 bloomy and brainy cheeses and 3 things that'll pair with it. And you get to discover like how they're different. I love tasting sort of, we call it a vertical tasting, where you taste the same thing, but in different styles or different ages. Lots of fun things you can do. But I encourage, if you like this, or you like this box because you ate it along, or you didn't get this box, so you got to figure it out yourself. Go to the store. Tell them you want a flower themed board. If you can go to a cheese store, that's great. If not, go to the cheese counter at your grocery store. There are a ton of cheeses out there also that have flower rinds that are fun. Makes for a beautiful flower if you're getting ready for Mother's Day. It makes for a very beautiful Mother's Day platter as well. So many things. So it was a good box, huh, Julie?
Oh my God, I'm still eating. I can't talk to you. I'm busy.
You're gonna just tell the guys in your life that the popcorn's all gone?
I mean, there's a little bit left.
There's a little bit. I mean, you don't have to tell them that, though.
That's true.
It's just like, how truthful. Oh, we said we were the honest podcast. So you could say, we have some more, but you can't have it. Or maybe not nice. But honest. I don't know. We'll have to decide. We'll take a vote and we'll get back to you guys next month. In the meantime, let me tell you that you can find more information about our delicious fresh cheese purple haze. First one we did. The goat cheese is by Cypress Grovers. And let's see, Barely Buzzed is at Beehive Cheese. And then at Willa's Shortbread for the cute, adorable little shortbread cookies. Guys, you got to try shortbread. Look for shortbread with different flavors. Put shortbread on your cheese board. It's like, if you take away one thing, go put shortbread on a cheese board. Fistful of Fleur de Sel by Two Hot Cowgirls, Haute. And then at Blake Hill Preserves is where you can find more about their raspberry and wild bergamot jam, but also 7 billion other flavors. You can find more about Julie and see what she's doing at What Julie Ate. And of course, you can get your Curdbox at curdbox.com. Don't forget Mother's Day. Tell Mom you love her with a box of cheese. And if you forget, and you thought this was a good idea for your mother, that you can get it up until that day on Mother's Day. You can download it. You can get a little piece of paper you can fill out and give it to her and say, your cheese is coming next month, Mom. Let's see. So yeah, you can find us at curdbox.com. We will be back next month and we'll have some more good cheese and pairings to try. So until then, go find some flowers on your cheese. Go get some shortbread for your cheese board and have a lovely month. We'll see you next time. Thanks for hanging out with me again, Julie.
Bye.
Bye.